Imagine walking into work tomorrow and your boss says, "Good news, you still have your job, but from now on, every year, we're going to pay you a little less." Not all at once, just quietly, 5% this year, maybe more next year. Your job stays the same, your paycheck still shows up. But every year, the life that paycheck can buy gets smaller. Most people would be furious because they would know they're not standing still. They're moving backward. But strangely, millions of people accept something similar with their savings. They put money away, they avoid wasting it, they do the responsible thing. And when they open their bank account, the number still looks safe. $10,000 still stays $10,000. But if prices are rising faster than the money is growing, the number is not telling the whole story. That same $10,000 slowly buys less food, less gas, less rent, less house, and less life. But inflation is only the surface problem. The deeper problem is that money sitting still has no weight to fight back. And this is where saving becomes confusing. Saving is responsible. It protects you. It gives you breathing room. It can stop one bad month from becoming a disaster. But saving was never meant to be the finish line. It's the seed, not the tree. And this is where people get stuck. They save $500, then maybe $2,000, then $10,000, and somehow their life still does not feel that different. The uncomfortable reality is that many people stop right before the process starts becoming visible. Because money sitting still is trying to survive in a world that never sits still. So the question is not, is saving good or bad? The better question is, if saving is so responsible, why does it so often fail to become wealth? To answer that, we have to stop looking only at the number in the account and start looking at what the money is actually doing. Because money is never just a number. It is either sitting still, slowly losing strength, or being put into something that can grow faster than the world around it. And if you only judge what you can see, you can miss what's happening underneath. Before we talk about money, it helps to understand something about humans. We are very good about judging what we can see, but much worse at understanding the process underneath it. Think about a shark. If you asked most people how many teeth a shark has in its life, they would probably picture the teeth in its mouth and guess from there. But sharks are constantly losing and replacing teeth throughout their lives, so the real number is much higher than what you see in one moment. The mistake is not that people are bad at counting, the mistake is that they are counting the visible result instead of understanding the hidden process creating it. And that is how we often think about our money. We look at the number in the account and assume that the number tells the whole story. $10,000 looks like $10,000. $20,000 looks better than 10, $50,000 looks better than 20, so we naturally expect progress to feel simple, visible, and straight. But many powerful forces do not move in straight lines. Water can heat for a long time and appear almost unchanged, but it crosses a threshold and suddenly begins to boil. A new technology can look like a toy for years, then quietly become part of everything. Ray Kurzweil argued that humans tend to think in linear terms, while many of the forces shaping the world move exponentially. In simple terms, we expect straight lines, but the world often moves in curves. And this is one of the biggest reasons people misunderstand wealth. They expect progress to feel obvious. They expect every small deposit to create a small but noticeable improvement in their life. So when they save $500, then $1,000, then even $10,000, and life doesn't feel dramatically different, they start to think the process is not working. But early wealth building often feels slow, flat, and almost pointless. Not because nothing is happening, but because the visible result has not caught up to what is being built underneath. This is the mistake people make. They judge a curved process during the stage where it still looks flat. In many parts of life, the early stage is not where the result appears. It is where the conditions are being built. Saving money feels safe because it is visible. You can open your account, you can see the number, and know exactly what is there. $10,000 looks like $10,000. It does not flash red, it does not fall 20% in a week. It does not move every second while you watch it. It feels stable, and stability feels like control. But money is never truly standing still. Even when it feels untouched, inflation, interest rates, and time are still acting on it. And that does not mean saving is bad. Saving is one of the most important financial habits a person can build. It protects you from emergencies, it gives you breathing room, it stops one bad month from becoming a disaster. In that sense, savings is a defense. And the best offense is always the best defense. Saving protects you from falling backward. The next step is learning how money can help move you forward. But defense alone does not usually build wealth, because while your account balance may stay the same, the world around it does not. Food gets more expensive, gas gets more expensive, rent gets more expensive, houses get more expensive. The number in the account might still say $10,000, but over time, that same $10,000 can buy less of the life you're trying to build. That is what makes inflation so dangerous. It does not always feel like a loss while it's happening. Nobody logs into their account and sees a warning that says, "Your money bought less this year." The number can look untouched while the value quietly erodes underneath. Warren Buffett once said, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." And that is a powerful rule because it teaches the discipline. It tells you to protect the seed before the world finds a way to spend it for you. But even that is only the first part, because once the seed is protected, the next question is what happens to it? Does it sit there? Or does it get planted into something that can grow? That is where saving becomes incomplete. It stores money, it protects money, but by itself, it does not always grow purchasing power. And this is where the responsible people get stuck. They did the right thing, they built the seed, but they never learned how money moves from safety into ownership. This is where most people lose patience. You save your first 1,000, then 10,000, and even though that matters, it may not feel like freedom. So people look at the number and think, this is taking forever. That is how non-linear growth often begins. The old dollar doubling experiment shows this perfectly. Imagine you start with $1 and it doubles 30 times. How much would you have at the end? You'd have over $1 billion. The point is not that your money will literally double like that. The point is that humans are terrible at feeling the difference between a straight line and a curve, while the curve is still very small. That is why the first thresholds matter. The first 1,000 proves the habit. The first 10,000 gives some breathing room. And Charlie Munger was often associated with the idea that the first 100,000 is so important because compounding finally has more fuel. But most people do not quit after the curve becomes obvious. They quit before it becomes obvious. They stop adding during the boring stage when the curve still looks flat. Nature works the same way. An iceberg can look small from above the water, but most of its mass is hidden underneath. What you see on the surface is only a fraction of the real structure. Wealth can look the same. People notice the portfolio, the house, the business, the freedom. They do not see the weight underneath. The years of saving, adding, learning, and waiting when nothing looked impressive. Growth was not sudden. Visibility was. And once you understood that, the boring stage starts to look different. It's not dead time. It is the hidden weight forming beneath the surface. But this raises the most important question. If saving is the seed, then where does the seed actually need to go? Because a seed protected in a jar may stay safe, but it will never become a tree. For growth to happen, it has to be planted into the right environment. Money works the same way. This is where the whole idea comes together. The goal is not to stop saving money. The goal is to stop mistaking saving for the entire process. Saving gives you protection, it gives you control, it gives you a base. But wealth usually begins when saved money starts participating in something productive. That is the difference between having money and owning something that can move. If you owned a rental property and it paid you rent every month, most people would understand why that's valuable. The property is not just sitting there as a number. A tenant pays rent, the mortgage may slowly go down. The asset may rise over time. There is a movement built into it. Now imagine that every morning someone stood outside that house and shouted a new price at you. Monday they say your house is worth $300,000. Tuesday $280,000. Wednesday $310,000. Nothing about the house has changed. The tenant is still there, the rent still comes in, the roof did not disappear, but because someone keeps shouting prices, you start feeling like something dramatic is happening. That is one reason why investing in the market can feel harder than investing in real estate. With companies, the market gives you a new price every second, and that makes people confuse price movement with real change. This is where Warren Buffett's idea matters. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. The price may move constantly, but the deeper question is what you actually own. Does it produce value? Does it grow? Does it survive? Does it become more useful over time? Saving keeps the number under your control. Ownership puts the number inside a productive asset. That asset may be a business, a rental property, an index fund, a skill, a tool, or anything else that can produce more value over time. This is why two people can save the same amount of money and end up in different places. One keeps money parked forever because it feels safe. The other builds protection first, then slowly moves some of that money into places where it can grow. At first, the difference may not look dramatic, but over time, one is only storing money while the other one is building ownership. One is protecting the seed, the other is planting it. And once you see that, the question changes. You stop asking only, how much money do I have? You start asking, what is this money becoming? And that brings us back to the original problem. Most people are not wrong for saving money. They are wrong when they think saving is the entire process. Savings protects you, it gives you control, it gives you options, but saving alone is not usually what builds wealth. It gives wealth building a place to begin. The real shift happens when money moves from being stored to being productive. When it becomes ownership, when it becomes part of something that can grow, produce, compound, or increase your ability to earn over time. That is why the visible number can be so misleading. $500 may look small, $10,000 may not feel life-changing, even 1 year of investing may feel boring. But if that money is slowly becoming part of something bigger, the question is not just, how much do I have right now? The better question is, what is this becoming? Because saving is the seed, not the tree. And there is another way to understand wealth that most people ignore. Instead of only asking, how do I build wealth? You can invert the question and ask, what keeps people stuck? They stop at saving, they interrupt compounding, they confuse price with value, they judge the visible number before they understand what is happening underneath. And once you see that, money stops looking like a number you protect. It starts looking like the future you build. But Buffett understood something most people miss. Sometimes the fastest way to build wealth is not to ask what works, it is to ask what breaks everything. So if you want to see the inverted way Buffett and Munger thought about money, check out this video next.